This is Introduction to Basic Staff Training. It's Introduction to Club Programming and Planning. I think most of you have already, you've been with the club long enough to do some programming and some planning, yes? Is there anybody who has not? You're really, truly in this just beginning startup of a club. Awesome, awesome, good. I hope this will be helpful to you guys. When I looked at the description in the program, we're going to talk about, it says the seminar reviews the mission and goals of Pathfinders. Now, I know that you guys met last night, or most of you, maybe some of you did, where you talked about overall big goals for Pathfinders, right? You did that last night? What about a club vision or mission statement? How many of you have a club vision or mission statement in your club? You want to share it? Is it something you can, a vision? Do you have a written vision statement? Okay. Something I think I want you to consider. When I was director at Collegedale, one of the first things that I did was we sat and we actually, as a staff, we talked about what did we want our club to be. And yes, Pathfinders has a goal and a mission statement, and each year there's a theme. You have that and you want to do that, which the theme is on your packet. But as a vision statement for your club, and we came up with a 4-point statement. And it was exploring God's world, building Christian faith, serving others, and preparing for Christ's soon return. And we felt like that everything we did needed to fit into one of those things. Exploring God's world, that was easy for us to do. Now, guys, this is Collegedale's, don't steal it. This is Collegedale's, use it as a jump off. This is their vision statement. Exploring God's world, building Christian faith, because isn't that what we're supposed to do? It's what we want to strive towards. We want to serve others and preparing for Christ's soon return. So when we did our planning, we looked at those things and how did what we were doing fit into that. I'm not one who, and there's a time and place for lots of things, but I wasn't one to just, let's go to a theme park. Let's do that. That'll be fun. Okay, it will be fun. But how does that fit with the Pathfinder? And I'm not saying you can't do that, but for me personally, going to a theme park, your mama can take you, honey. That's so much fun. Go with mama. I don't know. For me personally, I didn't feel like that fit with our mission and vision statement. So that was something we chose not to do. I'm not telling you you can't do that, because you may have a total different philosophy. But for me, that was how we used our vision and mission statement, that vision statement, how we drove. That's what drove our club. This year, we have, and we do every year, we have a theme, His. Here I stand. How's that going to drive your club this year? How are you going to use that to keep your focus? Now, you may also want to go back and do some things, develop some things for yourself with your staff. What is it that you want to do with your club? How are you building your club? And each club has their own dynamics, their own little feel. We all look like Pathfinders. We do the same things, but each club is just a little bit different because of the personalities. So what works for you all? So be thinking about those things. We want to really look at just kind of the typical theme, some things that you need to think about. So in this little club planning packet, if you will go ahead and let's look at the first page. Planning for the Pathfinder year, we are a June 1 to May 31. You've got to get that registration in so that you can start up. We do ask that your registration for the next year, I believe that is due by May 31. So even though the year ends, you're ending looking forward. So it does, and sometimes your church, depends on your church calendar, how your church calendar works, but we typically follow the school year calendar with Pathfinders. So as you're planning, obviously, and we talked about this, in the last session, when we talked about how to organize a club, and one of the very first things I think you shared, well, what do you do when you get started? You pray. You pray. So, of course, you do want to plan prayerfully. Recruiting staff. How do you guys go about recruiting staff? I know how I did it. Find people who are willing. I got to the point where people would see me coming. Yeah, they would hustle off, and I was like, to be a little more subtle next time. But you just talk Pathfinders. But someone said it earlier too. You look for those people that are active, moving, social, doing stuff. I think Jordan, you said that, right? Yeah, so you look for those people. You would be fabulous with kids. And you start out with a compliment. Tell them all the good things that they do, because then they get a little puffed up and then you just pull them right in. Just pull them right in. I've got a little reference there to see the GCC policy manual staff section, because there are, again, some important things when you recruit your staff that you need to do. That manual is online. I know it's available to your directors. So those of you that are directors, you know how to get to that, right? You log in, pathfinders.gccsda.com, and then you've got your login. Nod your heads if you know what I'm talking about. Okay, perfect. Thank you. All right. You will need to make sure, of course, that you're following the guidelines in the manual. Have your staff complete your background check, and that is such a challenging thing. I get it. I understand, but it's so very important, so make sure you get that done and get everybody done as quickly as possible. One of the things that we always did, and I'm sorry to keep referencing Collegedale, but that's my frame of reference. One of the things that we always did in Collegedale was when a Pathfinder parent would come, they weren't really going to be staff. Well, I'll help you sometime maybe if I have time. We'd ask them, can't make anybody. We would ask them to go ahead and do the background check. Because then when it came time for a camp out and we really needed someone, they were already cleared. So that's one of the reasons where if you were to pull up Collegedale, it looks like Collegedale has 100 staff. They don't really have 100 staff, but they have 100 people cleared. I don't know if it's 100, I'm guessing right now, but I don't know what they have. But it looks like a huge staff pool, but that's just it. It's a pool of people that when you get in a bind and you need someone, they're already cleared, you know them, they're good. Okay, I need you this weekend. Can you come this weekend? So that's very helpful to have them already done. That helps you, you're being proactive too when you get to Camporee and someone you were counting on, something happens, they have a family emergency or something with their job and they can't come, then you've got a pool of people to pull from. Also then, once you you are registered, you've got that permission, you've got your staff, you're ready to go, then incorporate your theme and your Bible text, and you've got that. Every year when you are planning, let that help what you do. How do you create your yearly club calendar? Yeah, you start with the conference one, right? So you guys have all got this in your packet. So everybody's got the calendar in the packet. There's a lot of information there. A lot of the events already say, if it's a conference event, what the cost is. There are some things still that cost can be determined, like regional events. Sometimes we have to figure out where we're going, what we're doing, and how much that's going to cost. We can't always get that published, but we do try to let you know as quickly as we can on those things. Your registration deadline there is in the center in the red. Make sure you are registered on time. There's nothing like, 10 o'clock the night it closes and you cannot get online. It's frustrating. So make sure that you keep this. The event dates are there in yellow. So yes, start there. Then you want to make sure that you establish, and most clubs already have it, what night, just say it, we'll have a little chaos. What night do you meet? Saturday night and Sunday. Whew, what is wrong with you people? No, it's okay. It's what works for you. Does somebody meet during the week? Tuesday, Wednesday, Tuesday? Okay. Monday? Do I hear a Monday? Oh, no Monday people this time. Awesome. Tuesday, Wednesday? Okay. All right. So you've got your regular date and time. How many of you have staff meetings already scheduled at the beginning of the year so you know when you're meeting? A few? Okay. How often should you have a staff meeting? How often? Once a month. You should have those monthly staff meetings. And of course, we talked about this earlier. Make sure you get your calendar to the church board for approval and record it in their minutes so that your events are official, and that allows them to be covered then by insurance. So a lot of this is kind of a repeat. Activities and outings. Again, we talked about this a little bit earlier. They do need to be church board approved. And then those events that need special approval or additional, there's this whole prohibited activities list in the GCC manual, and it's about this long. So there is a list of prohibited activities: rock climbing, what are some others? Horseback riding, maybe? I don't know. Bouncy houses, yes. It's all kinds of, interesting things. So be sure you check out that list as well. Don't want to get yourself in trouble, because if it's a prohibited activity and something happens, who's liable? We are. And I like my house and my car, and yes. There's a rock climbing on it, right? There is. And a horseback. There is, yes. And see, that's, and I think too, there's, I think is maybe skateboarding one of the, and there are honors for those. Guys, what you have to do, you have to get what they call a rider. You have to get a rider, which is more, it's more insurance. It costs you more to do. So you can do those, I shouldn't say you can. There are some of them that you can purchase a rider to be able to do, but it's additional insurance, okay? So it's not just completely prohibited, because there are honors for some of those prohibited activities, which is a little, the honors were written before the insurance companies came into play, perhaps, I don't know. Yes. Like, so you could theoretically get waivers signed by parents saying that this participant isn't liable for those activities. I would make sure that you are treading within the guidelines set forth by risk management, GCC manual. I would do it the right way. So, you can always find a loophole, but make sure that you are doing it so that you are protecting not only yourself, your student, your Pathfinders, but protecting your church and protecting the organization at large. So you got to, make sure that you are well within the parameters of what we should be doing, our guidelines. All right, budgeting and fundraising. Okay, how many of you already have a set budget? Does your church say, okay, here's a line item for you? We got one. Okay, yep. Okay, where do the rest of you get your money? Donations? If your church, are there churches that don't have a Pathfinder budget in there's no line item? No line item for you guys? Well, there's a line item, but it's empty? Yeah, donations? Okay. All right, do any of your churches automatically give you a little bit of a budget? Okay, good. You're blessed. Well, no, it's never enough. It's never enough. But that's good. And I know it depends upon the financial wellness of your church as to what they can do. If you are in the budget as a line item, then that just is another step that your church is really supporting what you do. You still have to be proactive and raise some funds, set some reasonable things, because they don't have deep pockets, but that's just one more little step that really is an indicator to me that they're behind you if you're part of the budget, because what we budget is what's important to us. You do need to plan for some fundraisers. Should your fundraiser meet your budget? Should it be the fundraiser that is where you get your budget? No. If you're depending on a fundraiser to meet your basic budgetary needs, you could be in trouble. Because whose pocket does it come out of if you don't meet the needs? Yeah, which we know, we spend money on Pathfinders, we all do, right? We all do. But just make sure that you're not depending on just a fundraiser to do what you need. That's where if you don't have club dues, maybe you need to consider having some club dues, that just covers the basics. If you do a minimal, because I know there are clubs who do a minimal registration fee. I think there's some clubs that do a $5 or $10 registration fee, and they kind of use that, but then they charge for their outings and things like that. There are other clubs who don't charge a registration fee, but then charge a monthly dues. So just you have to look at how you can best meet the budgetary needs of your club. Do you know what your budget's going to be for the year? Do you know what you're going to need for the year? How do you figure that out? Do what? Trial and error, experience. It does change every year. Is that important to know going in? Yeah, it really is. How much are you going to need? We have Oshkosh coming in 2 years. Can you believe? How did it get here? 2 years? Are you kidding me? And I know that going to Oshkosh is monumental. Transportation, huge costs. Ticket costs alone. When I went to request, and this was, a few years back, when I went to request the check for the ticket cost alone, I thought my church administrator was going to pass out. Does this cover the trip? Just gets us on the grounds. Wait, what? It was thousands of dollars. So make sure that you know kind of what you need. Now, it's not an Oshkosh year yet, but it's coming. So what's your budget going to need? So really be thinking about what it's going to cost you to run your club. And I hope nobody's getting frightened and saying, okay, I'm done. Can't do this, gotta go. All right, another aspect of kind of that overall big picture is your Investiture Achievement. Because when you get ready to invest your kiddos, you need some things, right? And they are expensive things. So that's a part of your budget.
Shipping alone is expensive.
Well, talk to Lowen. Lowen is here. But those are things that you need to think about at the beginning of the years. Okay, if I have 5 friends and I have 6 Explorer or whatever it is you have, if they're all going to, and we assume that they're going to, right? Because we're going to help them. We're going to help them achieve so that they can be invested. What's it going to cost me to invest those kids? So you can already, and maybe well, I know we've got the potential for these many, so here's how I'm going to plug in some extra funds. So there are things like that because you can spend, and then what honors are you going to teach? Do you kind of know that ahead? What do the patches cost? So just those kinds of things, thinking about at the beginning of the year, what's investiture going to cost me? Because investiture alone can get very pricey. So be thinking about those things. And when are you going to have that event? Is it going to be an event in front of the whole church? Is it going to be an evening event? When are you going to, Sabbath afternoon? When are you going to do investiture? Something you want to get on the church calendar. Anybody do that in a different kind of spot other than at church? Nope. Yeah. Sometimes with investiture, and again, at Collegedale, it was hard for us to do it as part of the church service. And so for investiture, it would often be just the Pathfinders and their families, which is okay because they're the ones that are invested in those kiddos. But isn't it nice if you can do it at a Vespers time when everybody's coming, because then you get people in the church who they're blown away by what these kids do. And it's really good to, again, get them in front of the church. So think about when you can schedule your investiture. We talked about the honors. Planning for your honors. Are there ones that you plan to do that your Pathfinders are going to be really super excited about? And then are there ones that they're going to go, really? But you have to do it because it's a part of their things. So how do you do those ones that they just look at you like, we're doing that honor? Are you kidding me? I have to do that? How do you then plan for those? Because we have them. Let's face it, we do. How do you plan for those? The ones that are not the preferred honors, but the necessary honors.
Make sure you have interesting stories.
Interesting stories. And interesting people to do them. That's where that pool of people, sometimes you may have someone who the kids don't know, but they really like that person. They're not, when I say they don't know them, they're on a weekly basis. They're not there with you every week, but they know this person and they think they're pretty cool, but they're not involved with Pathfinders all the time. You get somebody in to do that honor because, they just think they're pretty cool and let's see what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. So get in some different people to help you teach some of those honors.
When you do that, Sam, don't you have to have them
Background checked?
Yeah.
Well, what did I tell you we were going to do early on? Get lots of people that are background checked. So it may be someone who says, well, I maybe can help you sometime. But yes, you get those people. But then there are people that if they are not supervising, let me back up a minute. You can have some guest speakers in that are not background checked because they are not supervising your children. You're there. They're not taking them off in a room alone. So yeah, those don't have to be background checked. They're a guest. Yes?
Correct. We were told last, during our meeting that you can have somebody teaching an honor
Yeah.
as long as
Yes.
they are supervised by somebody who is background checked.
Yeah.
Then you can have anyone teach an honor.
Yeah, because they're not chaperoning your children. Yeah. But you still want that big pool of people that can step in, often parents, but yes, anybody can come in as long as you are not leaving them to chaperone the children, the young people, the youth. Okay. For other pre-planning kinds of things with this, pre-programming, it's important to know where you're going to be having things, how are you going to fit the theme in. Again, what we're talking about, your speakers and instructors. In the calendar, let's go ahead, and I know I'm probably going to open up a can of worms and maybe some things I can't answer. Is there anything about the calendar that, any questions that you have about it? Don't ask me some of the places because the regional, so where's the regional camp out going to be? It's a secret, I can't tell you. No, I don't.
To be announced.
To be, yes. And I do know that we are working on that and this evening with, I know when I say we, Region 2. So Region 2, we do have a place, and those of you that are in Region 2, we'll share that with you this evening. And it's not where we thought, but anyway, that's a whole nother story too. I'm sure Earl will share that with you. Okay, so what things about planning your year have we not already talked about that are important to you? What pieces do you need to plug in? And we talked about induction, investiture. What are some other pieces that you might want to plug into this big overall conference calendar? Weekly meetings.
Your own campouts.
Yes, your own club campouts. When are you taking your kids camping? Because the first time, for me, I don't know, I really struggled with bringing my kids their first camp out to a regional event. I struggled with that. Because I didn't know how little Johnny and little, Susie that had never been in my club, I didn't know how they were going to act on the first one. And if they were going to act a little crazy, I wanted them to act crazy with just our club and not everybody. So are you going to try to get in a club camp out before you do a regional? Not everybody does. Some people are like, that's a great training ground. Let's just do that. So what do you know about those, your campers? What else? So your weekend events. What else might you want to plug into the calendar? Outreach. Are you going to do those in place of a regular club meeting, or are you going to do some outreach, some share your faith on a different time? So think about where you're going to put that. What else might need to go in? If you're going to do a lock-in, which is just another activity event. I'm thinking a big something at church. Pathfinder Sabbath, yes. If you can schedule a Pathfinder Sabbath, and that's one you really have to do early in the calendar year to get it on. And I will tell you, it took us forever, but Collegedale has a Pathfinder Sabbath, and they take all three services. We used to take all three services. That was awesome. So we actually have a Pathfinder Sabbath now, and it's really a great opportunity for the older people who, because Collegedale has lots of older people. And they're like just so amazed when they see those little Pathfinders in their cute little uniforms. Their hearts are warmed, it's just awesome. So make sure you plan your Pathfinder Sabbath early. Yes, ma'am.
Because we're not in the budget in our church,
Yes.
we decided to have Pathfinder Sabbath, the first Sabbath every month.
Nice.
And so we are always in their face. And so that's, we have typically, yeah, we get the children's offering that Sabbath.
That's awesome. Okay,
We typically have about $5,000 in our.
good. Did you guys hear that, some of you back there? She was saying since they're not a line item in the budget, that they have actually, their church allows them to have kind of a Pathfinder Sabbath, the first Sabbath of every month. And they get the offering and they get the children's offering, and so they do pretty well that way, so,
We do one month, we do actually do the entire service
okay.
as well as like
So when you do the monthly thing, you're doing like offering collection?
the song service, they open doors for
Okay.
out.
You're doing the elements of Sabbath, but on Pathfinder Sabbath, you're doing everything, the worships, the sermon and everything? Okay. So you are, so in a small church, that's probably good. It lets some other people kind of sit down for a month, not have to do, or a Sabbath anyway, and not do the picking up offering. All right, good. That's a great idea. All right, anything else that we can think of that we should think of? Let me check my little list here. I think we've kind of touched on everything. And of course, the budget planning, and we've been all over this because they are so intertwined. You know, when you plan, you have to think of budgetary things. But if you look at just on this back sheet, there are just some, and these are just some tips here. Our calendar, we do try, because budgeting is so important, we do try to get our cost in for as many of our events as we can, especially the big ones, because you know the ones here on camp, at camp are a little more pricey. So we make sure that we get that in the calendar. How many of you are able to handle your funds through a treasurer? And I'm talking about a club treasurer. You have a club treasurer? Okay. All right. Okay. When you have your club treasurer handle the funds, or you're handling the funds, who's your secondary kind of backup person? You're double checking. Okay. So do any of you have your own club checking? I'm kind of skipping down. Do any of you have your own checking account?
I thought they frowned if
They do. They do. Now, you know, that guidelines, you know, are to be determined with your local church. I know we did not, and I really didn't want that responsibility. But just make sure that you are, again, working very closely with, and I know you all have to work with the church treasurer, you know, so make sure that you are working with that. How do you handle when a counselor needs items for teaching and honor, or an instructor needs items? How do you handle the purchasing of supplies? Okay. How many of you tell them, get what you need and then bring me the receipt? Most of you? Okay. Do any of you say, tell me what you need so that I know what you're spending before you spend it? What if you tell, because I mean, had this happen, just get what you need. And they come back with this big, long, you know, they have done this elaborate, and they're $400, and you're like, choking on it. I didn't know you meant $400, you know. So that's important to think about too. We want to think that most people are really, they understand our budget, but I think sometimes because it's usually time factor, at least it always was for me, you know, you're just like, oh yeah, just get what you need. It's okay, just get what you need. And then they slide in with some stuff that we're like, you did not need that. You could have done that on or without that. I've got 5 of those, and you know. So make sure that you have that little discussion about what are you getting, what do you need, because we've got a closet tucked away somewhere. It's in somebody's house or somebody's garage. You have 5 of those already, you know, and she's got 3, and so you're good. So make sure that you have those discussions beforehand. Anybody have a petty cash box in your club? Because those are also, we did, but those are also really, it's local church. It's what your local church wants. We did. It was not much. I think it was $300 maybe. Receipts were kept very carefully. I mean, the documentation was really kept carefully with that. But again, you have to establish those guidelines with your local church. I'm just looking at the back here. I think we've kind of covered everything with this. So let me ask you this. What struggles, what questions do you have about programming and planning? Because there are a lot of people in this room that have great ideas. So what kind of struggles do you have? How to do or what to do or? Fundraisers, okay? Who does just really great fundraisers? How many of you do fundraisers? Okay, so what do you do? Do what?
Well, like, what are some good ideas? Because I have only one that I've found that works the best.
Okay,
Our one is small.
Okay, we're looking for ideas here. What do you do?
Well, we have a couple of plans. We're gonna do car wash, which is pretty basic. We're also gonna hand out these, like candy containers,
Yes,
and they're gonna fill them in.
with quarters, okay?
And then we're also gonna have a verse-a-thon.
Uh-huh.
So the kids have to memorize Bible verses, and the more they're gonna get sponsored, and the more they memorize.
Awesome.
I don't know how we're gonna do it, like a
Yeah.
certain amount per verse.
Sure.
And that's gonna go towards Oshkosh, so the kids have to
Awesome.
work hard
Okay.
to earn that.
What did you call that?
Versathon. Okay, so she's just 3 ideas. She shared, the Versathon, kind of like a marathon, only Bible verses. She shared the little candy canisters with quarters, and then a car wash. Can I share something with just personal experience with the car wash? Car washes are great, but really supervise your kiddos because they do things that they don't mean to do. They get silly and they begin to play, and they'll take a sponge and they'll throw a sponge at somebody and it hits on the ground, and then they go ahead and use it, and they scratch the hood of a car, and then Pathfinders are stuck with repairing somebody's hood. Oh, so anyway, luckily I had a guy in the club who did that he was able to buff it out, but we were horrified. So really, yeah, make sure you keep an eye on a car wash because you end up spending money you didn't anticipate spending because, So more than what you made. Jordan, what was your thinking?
A lot of fundraising.
Okay, so what'd you do?
If you have any kids in your club that are musically talented, it's a nice idea to maybe get like a concert and invite them to come to the concert.
Okay. Concert idea, musically talented kids, have a concert, have church members buy tickets, come, or families,
Or have like a donation.
or a donation, love offering at the door.
Yeah.
Okay,
You can do a breakfast,
okay, doing a breakfast,
an auction.
auctions, silent
Yeah,
auctions.
silent auction and stuff like that. There's a lot of online stuff now that you can do.
Yep,
Although they take a lot of
Yeah.
they take a lot of out of that.
Yeah.
Like sending.
right, okay. What are some things, Bryce?
Our club would do a walkathon where we would start out in the morning and we would walk. And
Okay, walkathon,
we have sponsors and they sponsor their kids and the kids that they sponsor, they walk a certain amount of miles and, they sponsor.
yeah. Cinder said being cautious with school. Are you talking about overlapping what school does? Yes. And sometimes I think depending on your locale, you do kind of have to know what fundraisers the schools are doing because they are doing them, and make sure that you're not overlapping. Yes, sir.
Just as a resource, we have a Christian radio station in our area called J103.
Yep.
And they've got a fundraiser option on theirs where they take a very small fee, but you get 95% of all the profit.
Yeah.
They have a plethora.
Okay. Yeah, so looking at other places that maybe have the little coupon books, you can get, coupon books or, the cards for the, started to say the vendors, but yeah, the vendors, the people in your area. Yeah. Yes.
There's also rummage sales and carnivals.
Rummage sales and carnivals.
We did when I was a bump.
Yep. Hard-working kinds of things. Yep. Yard work. Rent a Pathfinder. Rent a Pathfinder. I'm telling you, rent a Pathfinder to rake somebody's yard. Yes, rent a Pathfinder. Yes.
We've done a fair similar to Carnival.
Okay.
Getting stuff.
A fair. fairs, carnivals. Okay, yes.
We did a silent auction with any honor you do, but we did the cake honor. 10, 11 kids, and we made $400.
Wow, you did what now? A silent.
Silent auction for the cake. I mean,
Oh, they made the cakes.
they made
Okay.
the whole cake and decorated it.
Okay, so the kids, they did the cake decorating honor. The kids decorated the cake, and then they did a silent auction for the cakes, and they made $400.
You can do that with any honor that looks like something you want.
Well, now some of those little cakes, even though they might not look like something somebody wants, some grandma's going to pay for that cake anyway. So something that your kids, are able to do as a part of their honor, auction those, silent auction, whatever. Yes, ma'am.
Now, if you do a silent auction, do you do better than a regular auction?
Okay, those of you that have experience with silent auctions and regular auctions, which tends to produce better? Silent auction, regular? What do you think, Jordan?
It depends on how big the thing is. If it's something that someone doesn't really, maybe they don't really care, like not a lot of people care about, then it's better as a silent auction. But
Okay.
if it's like, you have a big item that the Pathfinder Club
Yeah.
is auctioning off, then you can do like a lot of
Yeah, and I do think it kind of depends upon the group of people that you're working with, the clientele, so to speak.
The reason we chose silent is because we had kids that were fragile, and if they
Yes.
felt like theirs was as good as someone else's, and then we had staff and church members that would see in this jar there were only a few papers, so they would go and theirs.
Yeah,
That's why we chose silent.
Okay.
It made the kid feel better.
I understand. Yeah. Did you guys, okay, she was saying, silent auctions, she felt like that worked for her club because she had some, and we all do. We have some fragile children. This world has fragile college students too, but it's okay. Sorry, I digress. But we have fragile children who, if it's an auction and the bid's not good, their little hearts are hurt. And with the jar, if they're putting auctions in their name in a jar, then people can put more in the jar and just help soothe their little souls. It drives up the price, yes. Any other great, yes, sir.
Well, I don't want to say this is a fundraiser, but it actually has raised us funds. And every second Saturday of Pathfinder year, we do what we call Share or Pay. So we go out and visit the sick and shut-in, nursing homes, and unfortunately, these folks died. And without exception, we've always gotten a donation from the family.
I'm not sure what he's saying back there. No.
I'm just sharing, it's not a fundraiser.
It is not.
Without exception,
Yes.
we have always received a donation
Yeah.
from the family.
Yeah.
Because we also come to the funerals.
Yes.
And we come in uniforms and we guard the casket. And without exception,
Yeah.
we have always received a donation from
And I think really what he is saying is that we care for the people in our community. We care for the elderly in our churches. We visit them, we show them respect. And in doing so, then their families show appreciation by donating back to the Pathfinder Club. So it is about building those relationships. And you're right, it's not a fundraiser. And we don't want anybody to die. However, we know that just when you are demonstrating that kindness and compassion for your church members, they appreciate that. Yes.
You were talking about the cards. There is a online ABC something, and it's spinners, and those worked well for us.
Oh.
We tried those.
You're not talking about fidget spinners, I hope.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, these are donations because kids come up to sell you stuff all the time in our community. Every school's got some kind of fundraiser going on all the time. So, but they're not trying to sell you anything. It's a coupon slip they spin, and it tells them
Gotcha.
how much they donate.
Okay. So what she's saying, it's like you spin how much you're going to donate. So it's just a little spinner wheel.
$5 is on there.
Okay.
They spin it, and
Okay.
so
They're playing a game. Yeah, they're playing a game.
and they get a little coupon sheet for their.
With this topic of just planning for the Pathfinder year, there's so much variance. I mean, we have the basic elements that we want to include in a Pathfinder year, because if you're not doing Investiture Achievement, if you're just camping and having fun together, then you're not really a Pathfinder club, you're a social club. If you are not doing, it doesn't mean you have to do everything, because some clubs can do, they do drill really well, and they do in their Investiture Achievement, but their club's not so good at Pathfinder Bible Experience. Or perhaps their club does Pathfinder Bible Experience very well in addition to their achievement, but they don't do drill well. You know, we all have elements that are different for each of us, and you have to figure out what works for you. But you also need to know that there are certain things. To be a Pathfinder club, you need to be doing those things. And when you think about your programming and your planning, yes, the old point system or the honor, you know, they just handed those plaques out, drawing a blank. Thank you, the Award of Excellence. You know, this all does feed into that, because you do want to make sure that you are a healthy club, and that's what those points are about, is making sure that you're a healthy club, that you're doing the elements that qualify you to be a Pathfinder club and not just a social club. So as you plan your year, keep those things in mind. I think we could share ideas all day long about what we do, because each club is so different. Depends on your locale, your region, where are you, what's around you, how remote is your church, how, you know, are you in an area that's very large, so what are the dynamics of your church? So as you plan, each club looks different, but we've got those basic elements that make us the same. We have just a couple of minutes. I want to, if I can release you before lunch will start in just a little bit. Is there anything else that you guys would like to ask before we close out? Okay, if you don't mind, let's go ahead and let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, I want to thank you so very much for the opportunities that we have to program and plan for Pathfinders. And Lord, we do know that this is your work. And then when we work for you, it is not in vain. And so when we are tired, when we are weary, as we're thinking about just the logistics and the cost, and we ask that you be with us and assure us that it's going to be okay. We can do this through you. And so, Lord, we ask that you just remind us of who we are and whose we are. And we want to always walk with you and to be yours, because here I stand. And I ask that you bless these clubs and just go with them as they have a fabulous year with youth. In your name I pray, amen.